So I was in uni. I was in uni here in Jakarta, and they had this like exchange program. So I just kind of took the chance to like, I've always loved, going to new places to just like live. Like my dream is to like go to different parts of the world and live there for probably like half a year and see what the fuck that I could like, learn from like living experiences. So when my uni had that opportunity of like a student exchange, I was like, fuck it, wherever they might. So there was like a lot of choices between the States, between Australia and whatever, but I was really intrigued in Europe because I'd never been to Europe before. And that was like my first time in Europe. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. I mean, I'm just blessed. Like I had the opportunity to live in Europe from an exchange, from like a university exchange program, I guess. But honestly, when I was there, I didn't really go to uni, to be frank. Like I just took the opportunity and I like lived there with like a little studio, like, just smoke a lot of dank and just like work on music. And that's where I made my first like official album, which is called Curriculum Vitae. And in a way I kind of wanted to be my CV into like the music industry or whatever. And yeah, man, like I made my first album over there, came back to Indonesia, like finished it up, finishing touches and mastered it and everything. And then I dropped it on SoundCloud first. And then I put it up on digital streaming. And by the end of that year, well, I was already back here in Indonesia. It got the top 20 album of the year by Rolling Stones Indonesia, even though it was technically a mixtape. So I was like, whoa. When I was in Germany, it was more like I wasn't really influenced by the hip hop in Germany because it was all in German and I didn't really understand. And so when I was in Germany, it was weird because I was listening to a lot of techno because there was hella techno clubs in Germany. But somehow when I went back home, I just still recorded hip hop, and so it wasn't really any specific artist. It's just like the scene, the techno scene and the electronic music scene in Germany that kind of influenced me. But when I was in Houston though, Houston was like DJ Screw was the thing. DJ Screw was the thing, and obviously probably like Paul Wall, Chameleonaire at the time was just blowing up. RP DJ Screw. Yeah, man. Paul Wall, I was really heavy to Paul Wall. For like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, my mom was kind of concerned. She's like, what are you tipping on? She's like, what are you tipping on? What are you still tipping on? And I'm like, this is the song. I'm like, the fuck? But yeah, I mean, and speaking of Houston too, like, it was kind of crazy when I saw, like, because I really followed Travis Scott from the beginning, like when he was dropping his like mixtape early on. And then he was referencing to a lot of stuff in Houston, like the streets, the counties, the area code, the zip code. I was like, yo, I know all this shit. And then like I didn't have anyone to share that with here in Indonesia. And then now seeing Travis blow up like crazy, I was like, yo. And then I watched this like documentary on Netflix, and like there were some areas that was like shot, and I was like, yo, I know the spot, And it's crazy seeing like somebody from Houston, go to that level. Because prior to Travis, there was like, of course, big artists like Paul Wall and then Chameleonaire, but like nobody kind of really reached his heights, I guess, from Houston. Yeah, I mean, other than DJ Screw, of course, but like on a mainstream level, like Travis for this long, I don't think nobody really got like that far. Growing up in Houston was such a pivotal moment for me, especially growing up there in my formidable years from like 6 years old to 13. So it was like the year where, I guess, the years where a human being would like soak in the most, information and knowledge. So living in Houston, first, it kind of really introduced me to hip hop, and it really introduced me to not just the music, but the culture itself. And I kind of brought that here. And then I lived in Germany for a bit. And I lived in Germany when I was 20, 21 for about a year and almost a year. And it was like, that was the moment where I guess I kind of lived abroad by myself at a more mature age, I guess. And at that time, I was already making music, so I had a studio set up with me and everything. And living there, I guess the cold weather, because like living in Houston and living in Jakarta, the weather is pretty much more or less the same. But it's super hot and humid all the time. But living in Europe was like winter. And living in a place, that was the only place I've ever lived where I endured like winter for more than just a holiday. You know what I mean? It was like I actually lived in a winter, and it kind of brought out the, I guess you could say, the grittiness in me when I record and when I make music, and the melodies just came out different in a winter setting for me.